Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Alachua, Florida, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Florida, everyone, the Sunshine State. I'm here live with Gauravani. Live is like everybody on Zoom. And then, of course, everybody out there that I don't see, those are called the others. This is the words we use. And then if you're here actually in the room with me, that's called live. And so live, we have Gauravani Prabhu, one of our favorites there. And I'm also here with Lord Jagannath, if you can see, Baladev and Subhadra, because we're staying at Vishvambar's house. Now, if you don't know Vishvambar, you know who Vishvambar is, because he's the famous singer at the end of the podcast when it goes, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe Bolo. That's him. He's our favorite singer. Next to Gauravani, of course.
Careful there.
Lord Jagannath is live there. And welcome, everybody. It's today's Walk on Wednesday. Walk on Wednesdays, we find someone who's doing something cool with their life that we respect, that we want to dig around a little bit. And, we go 10 minutes and talk about what they're doing. And today, we have a special guest directly from Thailand. Please welcome Madhu. Haribol, Madhu, welcome to the show.
Haribol, thank you for having me.
Great. And Madhu is a great children's book author. A very much needed, it's sort of like, yes, there it is. It's called Janmalila.
Is she the illustrator as well?
No, just the publisher and just the author.
Okay. Well, that's plenty right there.
That's something. Yeah. She's publisher and the writer, and she works with different artists. But you know what? I tell you, there's a need, I think. There's not that many good kids books. And I think it's better to read the books. And anyway, before we go on, yeah, it's great. Wonderfully illustrated, and it's delicately and sweetly written. And you are a devotee from?
Born and raised in Toronto, and I'm Cambodian Canadian, living in Thailand.
Ooh, interesting. You fit right on our very exotic show that we have here. We're filled with exotic people from all over the globe. And so you're a Waldorf teacher on top of that. Do you feel like the Waldorf pedagogy fits in well with raising kids in spiritual life?
Yeah, that's actually why I chose it. I feel like it's very gentle, and the way we would want to raise our kids, where we don't have them on the screens, and we want to encourage them through festivals, our own cultural upbringing or spirituality, and daily rhythm, yearly rhythm, all gets incorporated in the way I would raise my kids. I don't have children, but it's a very cultural experience wherever you are in the world. So there are many Waldorf schools in India, and they follow it on a very Hindu way, which is it's very fun because they'll have a little swing of Krishna at Janmashtami time, and they'll have all the kids dancing, and it's a very bhakti infused experience.
Well, I'd say all my kids, at least 5 of them, did time at a Waldorf school. We have a big Waldorf school near us, a 400-acre farm, K through 12 school with its like organic, raw milk dairy, organic bakery,
Very
health food
holistic.
store, cafe.
Mhm.
And so they sort of like grew up like that. And I will say that it was like very, very healing for my little children who I raised in New York City. And then they developed this this type of anxiety disorder that the school psychiatrist was saying, where they wouldn't speak any longer. They would just not they would be social, but they called it selective mutism. And it wasn't until at that point when the school psychiatrist wanted to put my 5-year-old on medication, I was like, this is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. And then we brought them, what the hell is that? And then we brought them, or we went upstate because we were living in the city. We went upstate and we met with the Waldorf kindergarten teacher. And she just frankly said, sometimes you think the child has got something wrong, but the environment could be wrong.
Yeah.
So she said, have them come up here and come to school. They'll speak within 2 weeks. So it was very peculiar because my kids would speak at home, but they wouldn't speak publicly. My daughter went through the whole kindergarten without speaking. And so sure enough, it took 1 week and it radically changed. Our environment affects us,
Yeah. And they're outside more and in nature. I barely wear shoes at school. I leave them at the door and I walk out with my shoes and that's it.
Let's hear about these books, Raghunath. I want to hear about the books.
Want to hear about the books?
Yeah.
Want to share
Not from
a little
you,
something?
from her.
Okay. You want me to? I can talk more if you want.
So,
Mara's looking at me like, stop talking.
As a teacher, I really wanted to read my class a book about Krishna, but I found a lot of them were digitally illustrated. And so in Waldorf, it's preferred to have watercolor illustrations. And even though this may look, it's so good that it looks almost digital. It's watercolor, water is life and it gets infused into the illustration. So it gives a lot of breathing room. So that was one of the things that I was like, you know what, no one's doing this. And if I want a Waldorf inspired kind of Krishna book that I can read to my class, I'm not preaching, I just want to share what I love. Then I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. And that was 4 years ago when I had my first class. And it's just been an ongoing process. It's a huge surrender, but it's been a long learning process. And I started with Damodar Leela, which I'm still working on. But then I was like, I'll start with the hardest story on Akshay Tritiya. I was like, I'm gonna do the story of Krishna's birth. And I had not a clue what I was doing, but through a lot of research through Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is mostly adapted from Srila Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu.
Champu.
Yes, meaning stories of Gopal. So it was there was a translation that's in Hindi, in pure Hindi, that my translator, Srivas Dasa, we worked together and translated it. And then we had to really poetically turn it into a way that modern readers and children could relate to. But when you have a translation, it's quite raw. And then you have to, kind of rework the dough in order to get it relatable. So the goal with kind of Waldorf storytelling is that the story is being told through the pictures. So I like to say it's story as a meditation. So even if you're 3 and you can't read the book yourself, you could read this entire book just through the illustrations. They're so rich and they just really tell the story. But as well as that the text also paints a picture in the child's mind. So it's really a way, I've designed this in a way where the child can memorize the story either through the text, and we're still working on an audiobook, or just through looking at the illustrations. Because I really believe that as devotees or in spiritual life, if we're really having this goal towards Krishna and having these leelas come in our heart, you have to have a way that's practical to remember them. And sometimes maybe shlokas don't work in memorizing verses, but when you have something so visual, and it can just really imprint itself.
Yeah, for sure.
On your heart. And yeah, when it's just simple and gentle and beautiful, I think really we connect with beauty so much. And when we see something beautiful, we're just like, oh, I want that. And that's what Krishna is. He's beautiful. Like, I've put this book in people's hands and they've just been like, wow, this book, it just looks like I just want it.
It is beautiful.
Beauty of Krishna. Like, what else do we want? And we want to enjoy that in such a sweet, loving way. So that's how I started my journey. But it's been such a beautiful meditation. It took me over a year and 6 months to really birth this entire project on top of the publishing sides. And yeah.
Well, it's a perfect time because it's kitchen. It's kitchen. What did I say? It's Christmas. I'm looking at the kitchen in here. It's a perfect time because it's Christmas, and it's a great time. How can we get the book? Can we give us a?
Yeah, from my Instagram or even my Facebook page, David Shri Books. There's a link tree which has all the links to Amazon, so you can get it on your Amazon from any country. Those links are also on my website, David Shri Books. I would suggest Book Depository has free shipping anywhere in the world. So if you're in India, Book Depository is the best way. You can also.
We have a lot of Americans and Europeans. So Davy _Shri, which is SRI_books.
Yeah, is my Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and is there an Amazon link too?
Yeah. But you can just go on Amazon and just type in Janma Leela. And if you,
Great.
Janma Leela, Lila.
Janma means like the birth, even though Krishna doesn't get born. It's like the Leela of his appearance.
That is actually, this is such a complicated story that he is actually born of Mother Yashoda. And I think that is the interesting twist that a lot of people don't understand. I know it.
They're Gopal Champu details.
Yeah, these are very refined, esoteric details. This is a normal kid's book.
I know, and it is very cute. But he does appear in Mathura, but he is born like of the womb, and that was kind of the mood that we were going for. We didn't actually include Vasudev and Devaki in the story, so it's told from the perspective as if you were Brajbasi in Vrindavan. So like your king is Nanda Maharaj and his wife Yashoda, and you live in the village, and she's pregnant and she has a baby.
Wow. I love it.
And we have a festival. So that's the perspective of the story. But because there were so many details, we decided that we're going to write a kind of like longer uncut version called Across the Yamuna, which is more going to be for like grade 8 and high school level, but it's still going to be very visual. And that will be like the complete Vasudev to Nanda Maharaj all the way across the Yamuna. So
she's got a vision, Kaustubha. She's got a big Krishna Leela vision.
Madhu, do you know, in your back and forth with Raghunath, did you pick up that he has a very deep attraction for little baby Krishna? That this is just where his heart is at?
Yeah. Do you want this on your wall? Do you want this?
Here you go, Raghunath. There you go.
My baby. My naughty baby.
Directly. It's so cute.
Beautiful little picture, little baby Krishna. That's him. That's what he's all about. You know his heart. You got right.
Well, we're going to ask everybody to buy this, but everybody knows some kid that needs to, and they're buying them, crazy books out there. This is the book you got to get your kid for your holiday season. This is the way. We don't like to preach to people. We like to just sort of slip things into people's lives. Here, what I got you for Christmas? Oh, a Bhagavad Gita. Oh, a old flower garland. Thank you. What else do you get for Christmas? Sometimes I try to go in real easy, like a tongue scraper. What's this weird thing you got me? Well, let me tell you. But this is even better. This is actually a bona fide sort of Christmas gift. Janma Leela.
On the birth of Jesus, you could give the birth of Krishna.
Yeah, just tell them it's Jesus. It's like a birth of God.
Thank you.
We got to get that okay with Thomas Bowl.
I would like to give something away. So since I'm holding this one,
giveaway.
Okay, it's giveaway time. We love giveaways on the show.
So if you're tuning in or if you're listening to this later, you can add me on Instagram at Davy _Shri SRI_books. We'll have all the links below, and I will send this anywhere in the world. So so you can add us and then tag. You can scroll through and see what is your favorite illustration and just
get out. Do you give every listener that we have, if that writes in, you'll see
a lot of listeners.
I'm gonna have one. I'm just gonna send one.
Oh, just
so
one. Okay.
I'll choose a winner, but from your story, I'll choose a winner.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, we could do a trivia.
So it's a competition. Now turn into competition. Right? Just got more exciting.
God, let's make it a duel.
Last man standing.
And make sure you text
Last
me
man
so I can find you.
I'm dead, and I've got the painting. Thank you, Madhu, so much. I could just, I'll just keep talking and blabbing all day.
Very
Thank
talented,
you so much
very
for
beautiful,
joining us. Yeah,
books.
congratulations.
I hope to write more books, so follow me and you can check out all my books to come.
Produce more. The world needs more of what you're giving out here. So keep up the good work.
For having me. I'm so excited also that you're in Vishwambar's house because Brenda is my favorite author. So much
Really?
Yeah, we've had
Brenda's
her
your
on the
favorite.
show.
Well, we're gonna tell her. We're gonna tell
and
her.
I know that Vishwambar brought my book, so I've been waiting to hear what he thought of it, but I don't know if he's gonna read it. Send me a message.
I'm gonna ask him today. And no matter what he says, I'm gonna say he said it was great. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure he loves it. All right, thanks for joining us. And I know it's late at night in Thailand, so if you need to get off, we're not offended. But thanks for joining us. How do you
Just a little bit offended, but not
a little bit offended.
We understand.
Okay, well. All right, let's dive into the Srimad Bhagavatam.
All right.
Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet.
Okay.
Mara, hit it.
We are on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, Text 19.
Do we have any
28.
announcements do we have to make before we dive in?
We have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings today at 1 o'clock and a women's group meeting tonight at 9:30 p.m. And then this
9:30 p.m.?
Yeah, so if
It's
you're
like
on
a
the
late-
West Coast.
Late night.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right.
And then this Saturday, Tina Scheid is offering part 2 of her breathwork workshop at 11 a.m. Eastern time for Patreon
Breath
members.
work. You're saying something's wrong with my breath?
And it can support your sadhana more.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
I'm
All right. Oh,
here.
by the way, I wanted to bring everyone's attention to this lovely painting behind me. Mara, you checking it out?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It
That's-
looks great. It's framed. It's up. We're excited. The cowherd boys are coming back from Vrindavan. Guess
Yeah.
what, Kaustubha?
What?
I reached out to the guy.
I know. Tell me
He's
about it. What happened?
great. Well,
Sanjeev at sosacredart.com.
SoSacredArt. If you just like great, yeah. If you know, I'm gonna give a shout out to Henry. I'm gonna give a shout out to Henry.
All
Because- and I was
you're
just
going
writing
all over
this-
the place now. but
I'm all over the place, but it's like as you become more God conscious, all of a sudden your desire of how you want to live in your house shifts.
Yeah.
And when I first met Henry, he lived in this he had these beautiful antique paintings, oil paintings, and stuff from his ancestors and paintings of his family members. And even though it was sort of cool, as he became more and more spiritually conscious, and now he's like bursting at the seams of his spiritual life. And I think it was the influence of Mother Yamuna who lived with him, and Dina Tarine. They wrote books there. He transformed his whole house into like a temple. So it makes a difference of what you put on your walls.
Yeah.
What you put on your walls, you're seeing every day, and you're taking it into the mind. As soon as I'm in Vishwambar's house in Vrinda, as soon as I walked in their house, I was like, well, this is like the spiritual world here. And so, yeah, this is a great website. And this artist, Jyoti
Sacred
Das, who
Art,
was on the
Krishna.
show,
Yeah.
incredible.
Incredible.
If you just go on this website and just check out her art, it's incredible. I mean, I'm scrolling through the website yesterday, and I was like, that one's incredible. That one's incredible. That I want to open like a museum.
which one do you want to get in your own home,
I
Raghunath?
don't know. I can't decide. I'm fighting. I'm going to show the kids.
All right. But yeah, and the thing is they do, she doesn't want to kind of cheapen it. So she's doing it like at very high quality. So this is called giclée style of print on canvas.
Giclée? Oh, it's giclée. I didn't know it was giclée.
It is giclée. And it's the closest thing, like when someone walks in, they think it's actually like an oil painting. It's so, the quality is like, so it's very good. Yeah.
Do you tell them the truth?
I don't tell them. No way.
You could just say, well,
what do you think? And then just leave it like that. Like say it like I'm almost offended. Yeah, like what do you think? Come on.
What do you think? And only the finest.
Yeah. And so in one sense you might look at it and say, if you want to go and buy a poster, it's going to be a lot less expensive. But if you look at this, you say, oh, well, I got to invest a little something in this. But really, when you see the qualities on a whole nother level, and it is a life, it is a lifelong investment. It's something that you live with, and it's something that you meditate on. It's something that, we're going to read now. We're going to get into, we're into the form of Lord Vishnu now. And we're going to be reading these verses now today, Raghunath, about how when you meditate on that form, what it does. We just read, that everything that's troublesome within the heart becomes eradicated. I mean, we just read past that every day, but think about that, And we're going to be reading today about how when you meditate on the form of the Lord, when you replace all that garbage that we're so prone to scrolling through nonstop, and you replace it with a you take in a visual image that's not only beautiful, but that is actually spiritual and very powerfully spiritual, that it eradicates everything that's troublesome within the heart.
Prabhupada called those paintings windows to the spiritual world. Isn't that a great phrase? A window to the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we laughed off. Well, that, and maybe Kaustubha, at least for our Zoom people, just put that website again on the board.
So Sacred Art, sosacredart.com.
But we were talking about we have to really fine tune this meditation on Lord Vishnu in the heart, and then not the other meditations. And we were joking, sadly joking, about the turbo scenarios of the mind and how I was playing out some fear, resentment, anger I was going through. And so instead of that meditation on Lord Vishnu, and I was noticing, because I was driving to Florida. So when I drive, I go into trance. It's almost like a mundane samadhi where I'm like just driving in another
That worries
zone.
me a little bit. I don't know if I want to be in the car when you enter into that trance.
Well, it's Dad's in trance again. Pinch him, poke him. No, it's just like your mind just goes off in different things. I mean, I wrote most of my songs I've ever written from in the old days. I wrote driving. I was like, I don't know.
Trance.
You're like in trance, and you're like open up to, I don't know, higher energy channels, higher planets, higher beings. Someone's planning stuff in my brain. But unfortunately, like I noticed myself going to turbo scenarios of, angry things or resentful things or bitter things. And you play them out over and over again. Yeah. And this is why it's important to get that Krishna Leela in the mind and reading every day, which is why we're here. This is Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya.
That's
We're hearing from the Bhagavatam on a regular basis, and it's changing the mind. I just have more work to do. That's what it is.
Yeah. In a lot of these commentaries of the verses that we're reading now, maybe we'll read some of them today. Srila Prabhupada, he's really wants to get this point across because he knows a lot of people have an interest in yoga and in meditation, and he knows that a lot of times they're being instructed to meditate on nothing, meditate on emptiness, or meditate on some concocted idea. He's saying, go back to the original source, go back to the original teachings on yoga, the most, and even amongst those, the most essential, and see that it's always directing you towards meditating on this form. Focus on it, and you'll have, there will be powerful effects to it,
I did a yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
In like 2000 or something like that, because I figured
you taught it, or you
no. I was actually, what do you call it? I was actually I was just doing yoga every day, 6 days a week, for years, and then I lived in the ashram for 6.5 years, and I thought, I don't know what I want to do after I don't know how to do anything, but I know how to do yoga. I don't know. I was like, maybe I should be a yoga teacher, so I did a yoga teacher training. and it was very secular. And but the first day we were like, okay, we're going to sit here and we're going to meditate on this candle. They bring out like the candle. Like I was like, what?
Come on.
To meditate on the candle? There's so many better forms to come on. I've spent so much time in India. I've read all these books. And now I have to sit here and meditate on a candle. And they had no good answers on why we were meditating on a candle. It's just like, still your mind, stop your mind. But once you still the mind, then what?
That's the point.
Okay, I'm still. Is this going to be my like state of being all times? Like, okay, kids, time for soccer. Get in the minivan. Still my mind. Still my mind. Like how to actually, like, where are we going with the stillness of the mind? And that's why I like Bhakti. You're actually meditating on form, and that form stays with you in the course of your day, actually. And in the course of your day, you're actually rendering service. For example, taking care of your family is part of rendering service. And that can be your meditation. Like I'm raising the kids with certain parameters of their health and their ethics and their lifestyle. And that's part of your meditation, even though you're packing them in the Honda Odyssey and you're driving them to the soccer field.
Right. Well, Madhu was mentioning that she's, okay, you read a book like Gopal Champu, which is basically Bhagavatam with some further details put into it from these great saints and what they saw in their meditation, right? Like that's Jiva Goswami. And you read those descriptions. Now the information's going in, through the eyes or through the ears if you're hearing them, right? And then you have a painting, like this, and you look at that painting, and you begin to feel the emotions. There's a combination now. It's like you're double teaming your polluted mind, or you're double teaming your troubled heart, by like hearing these pastimes, then visualizing them. And you begin to get to that point where, just like you're saying, even when you're driving the kids to the here or there or whatever, now you're talking about Krishna's pastimes. Now you're thinking about Krishna. And that heart starts to get softer. And you begin to realize that's the world that I want to live in. And the way you get there is by letting go of all of your petty nonsense, all of your selfishness, all of that ego stuff. And then you begin to understand more clearly what's happening in these descriptions. It starts to crystallize more and more about what spiritual life really is. And then the desire for it begins to well up in the heart. And that's, that now you're really practicing yoga when you start to get there. So all these things help. The paintings help. The children's books, boy, if we could have only had this when we were little kids, right? Like you get started early like that. And reading the descriptions.
Trying to think of the books I've read. Okay, go on.
So in any case, I'm just saying you combine all these different, you help yourself, because meditation is a very difficult thing to do. But within Bhakti, there's so many ways. Even as Madhu was saying, like the festivals, and all of that. It'll carry you. Just allow yourself to be carried by it.
I like your double. Yeah, I like your double teaming. That was a
double
good
team,
one.
triple team. Yeah.
Okay. What's your text, Mary? 26?
19.
19?
Just throw any number out there.
Maybe. I've got a 1 in 34 chance to get it right. Text 19. Thus always merge in devotional service. The yogi visualizes the Lord standing, moving, lying down, or sitting within him. You can picture the Lord lying down, standing, sitting.
You know what this reminds me of, actually? Have you been to Madurai before?
In South India? No.
Yeah. Mary, Google something for me, okay?
Sure.
Google Madurai, Vishnu temple, and then say Vishnu lying, standing, and seated, like that. Because there's this really cool temple in Madurai, right in the middle of the town. And it's the whole temple.
That's that very beautiful temple, right?
Well, the famous temple in Madurai is the temple to Meenakshi, to the goddess Meenakshi. Okay. That's the main one, and that one is an absolute mine. As a matter of fact, architecturally, I think that's the most impressive thing I've ever seen in my life was that temple. But there's also this really cool temple, and it's done in the style, those Gopurams that they have in South India, where they have thousands of carved figures, and it's very colorfully painted. Yeah. Well, it's done in the same style, but this temple, it looks like a spaceship just landed or something like that. It's not actually a Gopuram. The whole temple is This is really far out looking, but it has 3 levels, and it has Krishna seated, Krishna lying, and Krishna standing, or Vishnu in each one. Did you find it, Mara?
I'm still looking. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll get back.
MADHU.
No, I don't think there's an H.
There's no
MADURAI.
Yeah. But why don't you read the commentary to this, Ro, because some of the stuff we were talking about.
Of 19, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a good one. This is a good one. The process of meditating on the form and the personality of Godhead within oneself and the process of chanting the glories and pastimes of the Lord are the same.
Double teaming.
Double teaming. The only difference is that the hearing and fixing the mind on the pastimes of the Lord is easier than visualizing the form of the Lord within one's heart. Because as soon as one begins to think of the Lord, especially in this age, the mind becomes disturbed. And due to so much agitation, the process of seeing the Lord within the mind is interrupted.
Can't focus.
Yeah. When there is sound vibrated, praising the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, however, one is forced to hear. That hearing process enters the mind, and the practice of yoga is automatically performed. For example, even a child can hear and derive the benefit of meditating on the pastime of the Lord simply by listening to, this is a Krishna miracle, right?
Children. Is that what you're saying?
Unbelievable. No, it's
'Cause we
a
had
Krishna miracle.
Because it's talking about children hearing.
Talking about
and-
children, yeah. And we were just
Yeah.
talking about this.
Yeah.
You know what happened? Something happened to my, can you continue reading my Bhagavatam?
the miracle was just like so powerful that it.
It just made my whole computer go away. Okay, you
so
continue reading.
the hearing process enters into. This was a significant sentence too. He said the hearing process enters into the mind, and the practice of yoga is automatically performed. For example, even a child can hear and derive the benefit of meditating on the pastimes of the Lord simply by listening to a reading from the Bhagavatam that describes the Lord as he's going to the. There you go. That's the painting I got right here, Raghunath. The Lord, he says, you could hear the descriptions of the Lord as he's going to the pasturing ground with his cows and friends. Hearing includes applying the mind. In this age of Kali Yuga, Sri Chaitanya has recommended that one should always engage in chanting and hearing Bhagavad Gita. The Lord also says that the Mahatmas, or the great souls, always engage in the process of chanting the glories of the Lord. And just by hearing, others derive the same benefit. Yoga necessitates meditation on the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, whether he is standing, moving, lying down, etc. But there's one important point that was highlighted early in the commentary, and that is that ultimately yoga means getting the mind fixed on one point, right? And Bhagavatam's describing what that point should be, but we have a very hard time doing that in this age. We have a hard time focusing our mind. But hearing is a powerful form where even if we're dented cans, even if we're raised in Kali Yuga, even if we have a mind that's prone to distraction, when we hear, it brings our mind directly. It has a way of focusing the mind. And the other types of meditation, unless you're qualified for them, they're very difficult to practice. It's hard to keep the mind fixed.
That's why wherever I go, I bring a candle with me. Just like, okay, I got to pull over. Just look at my candle. That's amazing. We're talking about even a children, and then we just had the whole children's book thing. Come on.
Miracles are happening every day.
Yeah. All right, next verse.
Text 20.
In fixing his mind on the eternal form of the Lord, the yogi should not take a collective view of all his limbs, but should fix the mind on each individual limb of the Lord.
Yeah. So in the commentary to this, Srila Prabhupada is describing that by focusing on one limb at a time, it keeps your conception very personal. Like I'm dealing with a person here, right? So that's one way of meditation. You meditate on the feet, then you go up the body. You meditate on each.
All right, that makes sense. All right, next verse. 21. The devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a goad, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of their beautiful ruby nails resembles the orb of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart.
There you go.
Ooh.
right? Like all that's troublesome within the heart. It's saying, if you meditate on nothing, if you try to meditate on nothing, first of all, you can't do it. And second of all, it's not this powerful antiseptic kind of like, gloom dispelling, power in it.
Degreaser.
Yes, right. But this phrase here, ahata mahad dhridayanadkaram. It's ahata. It dispels the mahat, meaning the thick.
The thick matter.
Yeah, hridaya means heart, and adhikaram, darkness. It dispels the thick darkness, the thick grime, the thick grease that's there in the heart. Just bringing your mind to this form.
There's definitely a feeling when you go into a temple, like you feel lighter, cleaner, purified just by having that darshan.
Yeah, especially like we're talking about these festivals, and what to speak of if you're involved in like the service there, like if you take part, especially if like you spend your whole day, like if you had days like that, Raghunath, right, where you're like right from early in the morning,
all
you're
day
engaged.
long, you're doing service, and you feel, I can't describe it. You feel otherworldly. The first time I became a pujari, pujari is where you take care of the deity. So you have to get a second initiation. And I remember coming back from India and taking care of the deities in New York City, Radha Govinda. I have to wake up the deities. And it was like, I can't tell you, and I can't even describe it, but it's one of those things of like, almost like a feeling that I don't have to prove to anybody because it's just been proved to me. It was such a special internal feeling of cleanliness doing that service that I felt like, man, the whole world doesn't know about what I'm feeling right now. This is like the most precious, sweetest, sensitive, delicate thing I've ever done with my body, mind, senses. And you have to wake up especially early because you got to be up before everybody, and you're just in there with the deities alone. And it's quite spiritually overwhelming.
It really is, right?
You feel like it's a whole second side of Krishna consciousness that you don't know about until you start taking care of the deities. If you use the early hours in the day really well, it's almost like by 6 a.m. you're like, I've already had a full day here. It's like, there's like, I remember when you and I used to do our Vrindavan Prikramas, right? We leave, what time would we leave? At about like 5 a.m.? 4:30 a.m. Yeah. 4:30 a.m. So it's still dark. And you just head out on that trail in the dark and you walk for about 2 hours. So if you take your time and stop at a few places, maybe even a little bit longer. That's the walk around Vrindavan. It's walk like a barefoot walk around. We'll put in parentheses, cold Vrindavan, because it was very cold. It was always January when we were there, right? Yeah. And so you do that walk, but as you're walking, you're chanting, and as you're walking, you're visiting all the holy places that are reminding you of Radha and Krishna and all of their pastimes. And you're hearing, the bells of the temples as you walk by, like one merges into another, and you hear the songs from one little ashram to another. Yeah. And the scent, and you're smelling like all the senses. Yeah. All the senses. You're smelling incense, you're smelling the morning air, or the flower garlands, or the jasmine wafting through, or the burning of the cow dung, or the right. That's a scent. That's a real scent in India. Yeah. Yeah. So you're getting all of that. And then by the time, after you've been walking barefoot for 2 hours of that, and then you make it back, in one sense, it's like you're already fulfilled. It's, and you still have a whole day left, but it is. So those early morning hours are really essential for the yogi. If you want to practice bhakti yoga, you want to go deeper into it. In one sense, for our Zoomers here, especially when we're doing it at 5, it's kind of preaching to the choir, but it's a fact. If you want to go deeper into, find a way to use the early hours in the day, and find a way to focus your mind, on bhakti, on Krishna in the early hours of the day, whether it's through reading, whether it's through what you're doing, like some seva, some deity worship that people can do. Well, there's also something about doing things first, and it sets precedence for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. Like if I wake up in the morning and there's like a leftover donut or something, and I just put that in my mouth, and that's the first food I eat all day, there goes my day. If there's some healthy thing, oh look, I made you a fresh squeeze, green juice with lemon. That sets me up for the rest of the day. So whatever we do in the morning, it sort of recalibrates, like this is how today is going to show up for you. So hearing, chanting, japa, kirtan, whatever it is, it sets up your whole day, and it's a precious time where the mind is very, very open, receptive, and the world is quiet.
Nice. Well, so now we're talking spiritual strategies, right? In other words, okay, my days are ticking away. I still have a mind and a heart that's where the thick darkness has not yet been dispelled, right? And the days are ticking away. Let me come up with some strategies. I'm attracted to bhakti. I like it a lot, but I want to make it effective in my life. Okay, let me not waste any more of these days, right? So part of the strategy, let me set aside some time early in the day that I'll use it. Every day I'm going to regulate this. But then also, like what we're talking about, and let me set aside occasional full days where I'm just serving from the morning until night, right?
Right.
Like, at the Bhakti Center, we kind of made a goal to, like, really, if someone wants to be engaged, find an engagement for them, find them some service. And the most effective way that we did that was for our festivals. And we used to have, hundreds and hundreds of people come for the festivals. And we would have a team of about, I'd forget how many volunteers, but like 40 volunteers or something like that, or even more, because there's so many things that can be done, in a Bhakti Yoga Vaishnava festival like that. From the decoration of the temple, from those that are qualified as priests, to the decoration of the altar and the deities on the altar. There have to be musicians. There have to be people to greet the guests. There have to be cooks. There have to be people that help the cooks and serve.
Where do you think our kids are going today? We're shipping them off over to the temple, and they're all on cookie detail. There's like a
you see that
massive. What's going on, Gora? Massive cookie making thing today.
Oh, see, it's that kind of thing. And when you serve we found it was transforming the lives of the people just to have that opportunity to serve from. And then, like you say, you're floating at the end of the day, right? You're just like,
and it's taking up all your. I mean, I remember the first time not the first time, but one of the first times before I was an opted-in devotee of Krishna, me and the guys in our band, Youth of Today, we drove like we did yesterday. We drove to Miami, and I wanted to stay in the temple overnight. And I was with Sachi Sutta, Steve from Montrology and Equal Vision Records. And I said, who wants to stay at the temple with me? And the rest of the guys in the band, Parmananda wasn't into it then. No one stayed except me and Steve. And we were like, we want to stay in the temple. What can we do? We have 2 days off before our first show. And they're like, well, you can wash pots. You can wash pots. We're like, and I tell you, something that you couldn't pay me money to do, you do with great joy and bliss. And we were actually, you can ask Steve himself. We were in great bliss for 2 days of just washing pots. And they had a restaurant there and just listening to kirtan and just talking and then having some prasad and then going to waking up early. And it was like the greatest joy ever. Stuff that you couldn't pay people to do.
Right.
You do it blissfully, sweetly, because you feel like you're part of something bigger and contributing to the whole.
And what did they tell you when you were scrubbing the pots?
You're scrubbing your heart.
There you go.
And you know what? It was really true.
It is true. It's true.
I got some burnt on stuff in my heart. Burnt, like when you burn a pot and it's just like, you got to soak that thing for days. Nothing's coming out.
Right,
that's my heart.
Me too.
All right. Where are we?
22.
The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganga, which has its source in the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord's lotus feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountains of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. Wow. Did you hear that sentence? Let me read it again.
That's a big one. Yeah.
The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts. So we're meditating on the Lord's lotus feet, right? The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. Incredible. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. If you think of all the crazy stuff that's stored in our minds, right? Or even where the mind goes to on a regular basis, as we practice bhakti, it starts less and less going to those dark places. Sometimes you grow up in a spiritual family or in a pious family. It never went to those places. According to our association, the mind will go to darker and darker places or higher and higher places. But here it's saying that the meditation on the Lord's lotus feet, that I don't know. I've never seen this happen before. They use this analogy a lot, like
Thunderbolt.
a thunderbolt destroying a mountain. That must be a thing.
Well, sure, and you know, the idea is a mountain is such a solid thing. It's like, what can you do? You can't move a mountain. You can't, you know, it takes a thunderbolt to hit it, right, and to break it down. And so here, the term used here for that mountain is Shamala, Shaila. So Shaila means like a hill or a mountain, and like Mala means like dirt or contamination, right? And Shamala, Shaila, like a mountain. Here, Prabhupada translated as a mountain of sin, but like I'm looking at the word right now, Shamala. It can mean all inauspicious qualities, right?
I like that better. I like that better than sin. Mara, you and your sinful mind.
When Prabhupada uses that term,
sinful. Your mind is not sinful, Mara. It's just deeply inauspicious.
Hey, Raghunath,
it
whoa.
needs to be hit by the thunderbolt of the Lord's. Just joking, Mara. Meditating. Hey, by the way, on a side squirrel note here, do you know that India is the #1 place for lightning striking people?
Well, they got a lot of people over there.
No, I think it's more to do with the lightning. Mara, fact check that for me, please.
Okay.
All right.
#1 place.
By the way, did you ever find that temple?
Well, I think I'm not 100% certain, but I think it might be the Kodal Azagar temple in Madurai.
Yeah, all the temples in South India sound the same, but it's probably right. Yeah, did it say something about it?
Yeah, I was having that's what came up when I googled the Vishnu sitting, lying down, and standing.
Okay.
In Madurai.
Did you see a picture of the temple? Did it look really cool and it looked like a spaceship?
Yeah, they all the temples in Madurai look amazing.
Yeah.
Let's go to Madurai. What are we doing?
Yeah.
We should. When I went there, I stayed with this family real good. They had a whole house.
Yeah.
It was like these people are so innocent. The family, they were wealthy. They owned like the you see, a lot of people go to Madurai to get married. Do you know why? Quiz, the hot seat, Raghu.
Shiva and Parvati got married there.
Boom. Nice.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Did I get that right?
You got it right. Yeah, Meenakshi is Parvati, and it means her eyes are like fish, right? Like moving around like fish.
Ooh.
Yeah, the fish are graceful when they move back and forth like that, right? So her eyes are like that. And so, yeah, so that's where Lord Vishnu, he's the one that married the two of them, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people go there to get married, like all over South, especially in South India, like, you know, every day, thousands. But they own this
jewelry shop,
big, jewelry shop, like gold shop, you know, in Madurai. So people go there, buy, you know, their.
How did you find these people? Airbnb.
You know who hooked me up? Who do you think hooked me up with them?
Radhakund.
That's right. Radhakund hooked me up.
We have our go-to people.
That's right. So he lined the whole thing up. So actually, my wife and I, we had been traveling for months in India, and we're getting a little run down at that point. We didn't know where we were going. We had just come from Sri Rangam, and we're feeling all kind of like a little bit run down.
You know, sometimes just traveling around India, you can get run down.
You can get run down. And so we're going to this place. We don't know anything. We don't know who's going to pick us up, what the situation is going to be like. But, you know, and it was the sweetest people. And like I said, they're wealthy. They had this whole big multi-storied building house that they lived in, where it's like a lot of different family, you know, like brothers and
I'll bring 30 people over there.
You could. I mean, they would be like,
students.
They would be like, come on over. And when we walked in there, it was like the most innocent thing. Like there's like these teenage boys and girls, kind of like you could see like their association was just like being done in a very like, you know, like the boys were sitting on one couch and the girls were sitting on the other couch and like they were talking. And it was just like the most innocent kind of like association I'd ever seen like that. And they were really sweet. And they made us these idli, Raghunath, like I'd never had in my life. It was like the softest, like fluffy, like a cloud idli. But anyway, Madurai is great. Madurai is great. And we should go there and we should spend some time there.
Let's see if we can get one more verse in here, sir.
Why not?
I know you want to spin off on your South Indian squirrel.
Well, you started it.
South Indian food squirrels.
But there's something that we can read from this commentary. Let me just read you this paragraph, okay? Prabhupada says, another significant point in this verse is that the mind of the conditioned soul, on account of its association with material energy from time immemorial, right? We don't know how many lifetimes it goes back, contains heaps of dirt in the form of desires to lord it over material nature, right?
Yeah.
Lifetime after lifetime.
That's it, isn't it?
So he says this dirt is like a mountain, but a mountain can be shattered when hit by a thunderbolt. Meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord acts like a thunderbolt on the mountain of dirt in the mind of the yogi. If a yogi wants to shatter the mountain of dirt in his mind, he should concentrate on the lotus feet of the Lord and not imagine something void or impersonal, right? It's like you're shooting blanks, right? It's like there's no ammo in that gun. All the effort to meditate and all that, it's really not going anywhere. Okay.
I like that. Should we read or should we take away?
We got a few minutes left. Why don't we read one more?
Yeah. Okay, next one. 23. The yogi should fix in his heart the activities of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, who is worshipped by all the demigods and is the mother of the supreme person, Brahma. She can always be found massaging the legs and the thighs of the transcendental Lord very carefully, serving him in this way.
That's beautiful. You see, so all the verses we read today were about the Lord's feet, right? And, Lord Shiva was mentioned in the previous verse because he holds the water that washes the feet of Lord Vishnu on his head. That just shows how sacred those feet are, right? But we're also hearing how powerful those feet are and how powerful meditating on them. And now we're hearing about Lakshmi. Why are we hearing about Lakshmi? She massages the feet of Lord Vishnu. So, in so many ways, from so many different angles, double teaming, triple teaming, doing whatever it takes to get that mind focused in the right way.
All right, ready? Next, the yogi should fix his mind in meditation on the personality of Godhead's thighs.
We're moving up.
We're moving on up. The storehouse of all energy. The Lord's thighs are whitish blue, like the luster of the linseed flower, and appears most graceful when the Lord carried on his shoulders. When the Lord is carried on his shoulders by Garuda.
So when he's on the Garuda, his thighs look very
thighs are really
lustrous
shining.
And beautiful.
Yes. Also, the yogi should contemplate his rounded hips, which are encircled by a girdle
There you go.
that rests on the exquisite yellow silk cloth that extends down to his ankles.
I noted that you're wearing exquisite yellow cloth today. Right?
I am. Want to see what I'm wearing, everybody? Oh, I'm wearing beautiful yellow girdle.
There's no girdle, though.
Yeah, the girdle wraps around the girdle's what wraps around the waist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Last one.
Okay, another one. Hit it.
Last one.
We're moving up.
The
again.
yogi should then meditate on his moon-like navel in the center of his abdomen. From his navel, which is the foundation of the entire universe, sprang the lotus stem containing all the different planetary systems. The lotus is the residence of Brahma, the first created being. In the same way, the yogi should concentrate his mind on the Lord's nipples, which resemble a pair of the most exquisite emeralds and which appear whitish because of the rays of the milk white pearl necklaces adorning his chest.
Okay.
All right, we're going to leave off on the Lord's nipples.
Let's end there. That's our meditation.
That's our meditation for the day. Good. And we're glad to have, I want to thank Madhu for joining us. Jun Malila, check out her book. Oh, wait a second. I can't do the closing yet. We got to do our takeaways. See, part of what we do now is we sum up the whole thing. Mara, in her genius, extracts the nectar and gives us a little takeaway to put in our pocket and take away into the course of our tragic day ahead of us.
You put it in your pocket, you save it for a rainy day, right?
Yeah. What do you got for us, Mara?
All right. Where are we going with the stillness of the mind?
Yeah. Where?
Double team your polluted mind.
That's a question.
You don't like
Take
that?
away with that. I'm not going to get anywhere. Hold it.
All right. How about this?
Where am I going?
Double team your polluted mind and troubled heart by hearing and visualizing.
Yeah.
Okay. Got that.
Focus your mind in the early morning to set the precedent for the day.
Very good.
Keep your conceptualization personal.
Mm-hmm.
We need spiritual strategies to deepen our practice.
Nice.
I like spiritual strategies. I like that.
Spiritual strategies.
Seva dispels the gloom of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
and shatter the mountain of dirt in our mind.
Shatter it.
Shatter that mountain of dirt with the thunderbolt of the Lord's lotus feet.
You're going to be shattering it with some kirtan tonight, I suspect, Raghu, huh?
Yeah, every day is kirtan. It's all build up to the big festival. Me and Gauravani are going to do something Wednesday night. We're doing something.
Okay.
That's tonight.
That's tonight.
That's right. Tonight. We're doing something tonight. And then if you're down in this area, I'm singing. I wasn't planning on singing, but they asked me to sing at noon at the temple. So I'm part of that whole thing now.
Beautiful. Well, I
Thanks.
noticed that Nitai Lieberman's inviting you to come over to his home, Raghu.
Oh, did he? I didn't get that.
Yeah, on the
invite.
chat board. I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't read the chat board today. I try to focus on what you're saying.
Yes. Very good.
So yes. So no. So Stephanie Solelli.
So get in touch with Nitai Lieberman. Go visit Gopi. Say hello to Gopi. Say hello to Nitai for me.
I will. And I want to thank Madhu, Jun Malila. Congratulations. We're eager to get that book. Devi Shri Books is her website you can check out too. DEVISRI books.com. And thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for Gauravani. Gora, come over here. I'm going to bring Gora over here while we got him. How was your car ride yesterday, Gora?
It was like being in a trance.
We were both in trance driving down 95 South. It was quite dangerous.
We didn't know who was driving. The truck
Are you
was,
driving? Am I driving?
I don't know. I'm in a trance. The truck was driving itself.
I wonder if Sean Murphy, vegan trucker, goes into trance when he's driving like that. Yeah,
That's why
he's giving
that's
us
why
one out.
vegan truckers so wise.
Yeah.
And look, there's Nitai Lieberman right there in the bottom right-hand corner.
Oh
And
my
Gopi.
Lord, look at that dancing going on over there.
We are in
There we
your
go.
stomping ground, kids.
Oh my
We are
Lord.
close by.
Raghunath, if you go over there, you can visit the cows. They have cows over there.